Right now, someone watching this has already looked 5 years down the road and decided it falls apart before it even gets there. Recent surveys say almost half of adults feel more anxious about tomorrow than they did just 1 year ago. 3 out of 4 say the future itself has become their single biggest source of stress. But here's what almost nobody preaches on a Sunday. Jesus never once commanded you to figure out your future. He commanded you to survive today. That one sentence is about to change how you see every sleepless night you've had this year. You know the feeling. It's 2 in the morning and you're running numbers you already ran 6 times today. You open your banking app for the 4th time, hoping the number changed since breakfast. It didn't. You lie there and think about your job, wondering if it's still yours in 6 months, and you're not being dramatic. Recent data shows 44% of workers are afraid of losing their job in the next downturn, up sharply from the year before. You think about your health, your parents' health, a phone call you're dreading. You think about your kids and the world you're handing them. Almost 7 in 10 adults say money alone is enough to keep them up at night, and nearly half say they're more anxious in general than they were 12 months ago. You are not imagining this. You are not weak for feeling it. You are living, right now, in a measurable moment where fear of tomorrow has quietly become the normal condition of being awake. And you've tried to think your way out of it. You've made the spreadsheet. You've had the 2 a.m. conversation with yourself 100 times. It hasn't worked, because fear of the future was never a thinking problem to begin with. Here's why this matters, and why it's not just another quote on a coffee mug. Every word you're about to hear came directly from Jesus, recorded in the Gospels, spoken to people with far less security than you have tonight. No bank account, no health insurance, no retirement plan, living under an occupying empire that could burn their entire town in a week. If these words held real people together under that kind of uncertainty, they can hold you together under yours. Here's the bold claim for this first one. Jesus already diagnosed your exact anxiety 2,000 years ago, and his cure was never just think positive. In Matthew chapter 6, Jesus tells a crowd not to worry about tomorrow, because tomorrow will have worries of its own. Today already has enough to deal with. Read that again slowly. He's not promising the future will be fine. He's not saying the diagnosis will come back clear, or the job will definitely still be there in 6 months. He's telling you something narrower and honestly more useful. It is not your job to carry tomorrow's weight today. Say that back to yourself. It is not my job yet. Here's the real-world example he gives, and it's oddly specific for a sermon. He points at birds, ordinary sparrows, worth less than a single coin in the marketplace of his day. They don't have a harvest stored away. They don't have a retirement account. They don't have an HR department managing their benefits. And they eat every single day without a single anxious thought crossing whatever passes for a bird's mind. Then he points at wildflowers, here for one season, gone the next, thrown into a fire for fuel a week later, and says even the wealthiest king in the nation's history wasn't dressed as well as they are. His point isn't don't work. Jesus spent roughly 30 years of his life doing manual labor with his hands before he ever preached a sermon. His point is narrower than that. The same intelligence that feeds a sparrow and dresses a wildflower is the same intelligence currently running your life, and it has not once lost track of you. Not during the layoff scare, not during the diagnosis, not tonight. Maybe your list looked like this. Will I still have this job in the fall? Will the biopsy come back clean? Will my marriage survive this rough patch? Will my son ever call me back? Every one of those belongs on the not today side of the page. Not because it doesn't matter, but because none of it requires an answer from you in the next 24 hours. What requires an answer from you in the next 24 hours is usually much smaller. Send the email, make the appointment, have the one conversation, get through the shift. Jesus isn't asking you to stop caring about the fall, the biopsy, the marriage, the phone call. He's asking you to stop trying to solve all 4 of them at 2 a.m. tonight, because 2 a.m. tonight was never built to hold that much weight. Here's what that actually looks like on a Tuesday when your brain won't stop. Try what I call the 24-hour rule. Pause this video for 30 seconds if you have to, and write down every future-shaped worry currently living in your head. The job, the diagnosis, the kid, the number in the account. Now cross out everything that isn't actually due in the next 24 hours. What's left on that page is your actual assignment for today. Everything else, you are allowed, actually commanded, to put down until it's due. Most people never do this. They carry March's worry in January and wonder why they're exhausted by lunchtime. Think about what that actually feels like in practice. You wake up already tired, before the day has even started, because your mind spent the whole night pre-living arguments that haven't happened yet, diagnoses that haven't been confirmed, and layoffs that are still just a rumor in the break room. None of that is today's weight. It's borrowed weight, pulled forward from a day that hasn't arrived and may never arrive exactly the way you're rehearsing it. Jesus isn't naive about the fact that hard days are coming. He says outright that each day has its own trouble, not that trouble won't come. He's just refusing to let you pay a bill early that isn't due yet. Paul says something almost identical in Philippians. Don't be anxious about anything, but present the specific thing in front of you to God. Not the whole future, the specific thing. That's the first fear handled, the fear of carrying everything at once. But underneath that one is a deeper fear a lot of you haven't said out loud yet. The fear that even if you only carry today, there still won't be enough. Let's go there next. Bold claim for this one. Your fear is running the wrong math, and Jesus proved it with actual, specific numbers. Turn to Matthew chapter 14. A crowd has followed Jesus into a remote area. No towns nearby. No way to just walk into a market and buy dinner for everyone. It's getting late, and the disciples do exactly what you do when a bill is bigger than the number in your account. They run the math out loud. One of them, John, records that even half a year's wages wouldn't cover feeding this crowd. Then they count what's actually available. 5 loaves of bread, 2 fish. That's the entire visible supply for a crowd historian's estimate at somewhere between 15 and 20,000 people, once you count the women and children alongside the 5,000 men Matthew names directly. 5 loaves, 20,000 people, give or take. On paper, that math does not survive contact with reality. It's not even close. Maybe your version of 5 loaves and 2 fish looks like this. A savings account that wouldn't cover 2 months if the job disappeared tomorrow. A resume you haven't updated because you're scared of what you'd find out. A single skill you're not sure is enough to build a second income around. You look at that and you look at the size of the future bill, college, retirement, a mortgage that doesn't care how you feel about it. And the gap looks the same as 5 loaves against 20,000 people. That gap is real. Nobody's telling you it isn't. What this story says is that the gap being real has never been the same thing as the gap being final. Watch what Jesus does next, because it's not what you'd expect. He doesn't send anyone out to find more bread. He doesn't ask for a bigger starting supply. He takes the 5 loaves and 2 fish already sitting in someone's hands, looks up, and gives thanks for 5 loaves, not for the finished miracle he hasn't performed yet, and starts breaking the bread. The provision shows up in the breaking, not before it. Everyone eats, and the text says they were satisfied. When it's over, the disciples gather 12 full baskets of leftovers. 1 basket for every disciple who thought there wasn't enough to begin with a few hours earlier. You can see this same pattern with the Israelites collecting manna in the wilderness, 1 day at a time, unable to store it for tomorrow. Never generous by big picture standards, but always exactly enough for that day. Provision, in Scripture, is almost never a stockpile. It's a rhythm. It's worth noticing what the disciples do right before the miracle, too. Their first instinct is to send the crowd away, to solve the shortage by getting rid of the need. Jesus says something almost startling in response. You give them something to eat. Not, watch me fix this, but you. He starts with what's already available in their hands before he does anything supernatural with it. That's usually how this works. The miracle rarely shows up before you've handed over what little you already have, 5 loaves at a time. Here's your practical move for tonight, and I want you to actually do this, not just nod along. Make what I call a loaves-and-fish list. Write down what is actually, currently in your hand, not what's missing, what you have. Skills you've been sitting on. People who would show up if you actually called them instead of suffering in silence. The specific amount that is, right now, factually in your account, even if it's smaller than you'd like. Most people's fear runs entirely on the missing column and never once glances at the column they already hold. God rarely multiplies what you don't have. He multiplies what you're willing to put in his hands, 5 loaves at a time. That handles the fear of not having enough. But some of you aren't actually scared of running out. You're scared of choosing wrong, of taking the leap and watching it collapse under you. Let's talk about that next, because it's got its own story and it happens on water. Bold claim. God has never once asked you for a 5-year plan. He has only ever asked for the next step. Look at Peter in Matthew 14, starting around verse 29. Jesus is walking toward the disciples' boat, out on the water, in the middle of a storm. Peter doesn't ask for a 10-year forecast on this water walking thing. He asks for exactly one thing. If it's really you, tell me to come. Jesus says one word back, come, and Peter climbs out of a boat, onto an actual sea, in the middle of an actual storm. No map, no 5-step plan. One word, and he starts walking. And it works. For a few steps. Actual water holds actual weight under actual feet, for as long as Peter is looking at the one who told him to come. Then verse 30 tells us what breaks it. He sees the wind. Not the wind picking up. The wind was already there the whole time. He was walking on top of it fine. What changes is that he starts looking at the wind instead of the face in front of him. And the moment he starts doing his own math on the storm's odds of letting him survive, he sinks. The sinking didn't start in the water. It started in his head. That's the pattern behind almost every future fear you've ever had. If you're honest with yourself, you're rarely actually afraid of the next 24 hours. You can survive the next 24 hours. You've survived every single one so far. 100% track record. What you're afraid of is a calculation running in the background about year 3, year 5, year 10, a calculation you were never actually equipped to run because you don't have the information yet. That's not weak faith. That's just math nobody can do because the inputs don't exist yet. There's a reason so many of the biggest decisions in Scripture happen this way. One word, one step, no forecast. Abraham left his home country not knowing where he was going, only that he was told to go. Noah built a boat one plank at a time without a weather report on when the rain would start. Neither of them got the multi-year plan first. They got the next instruction, obeyed it, and got the next one after that. Think about the actual decision paralyzing you right now. Maybe it's whether to take the new job across the country, whether to leave the relationship, whether to go back to school at 38, whether to finally see a doctor about the thing you've been ignoring. Notice that in every one of those, the fear isn't really about the decision itself. It's about every decision after that one, the version of you 5 years down that road, and whether that version regrets it. Nobody has ever been asked to make that 5 years down the road decision today. You've only ever been asked to make today's decision today. Here's the shift, and it's a small one that changes almost everything. Stop praying, God, show me my future, and start praying, God, show me tomorrow's step. There's a well-known line from Proverbs about committing whatever you're planning to God, and He'll establish it. And notice what that verse doesn't say. It doesn't say He hands you the finished blueprint on day one. It says He establishes your plans as you commit them, one obedient step at a time, the same way Peter got exactly one word and had to trust it enough to move his foot. Practically, tonight, stop asking God for the 10-year answer you're not going to get anyway. Ask Him for the one decision actually sitting in front of you this week. The conversation you're avoiding, the application you haven't sent, the appointment you keep pushing. That decision is the only water He's actually asking you to walk on right now. Everything past, that is wind you don't need to be looking at yet. Which brings us to the fear sitting underneath every fear on this list. The fear that you can't control any of what's coming at all. Let's finish there. Bold claim to close out the teaching. Jesus never once promised to remove your storm. He promised to be in the boat. Turn to Mark chapter 4. Jesus and the disciples are crossing the Sea of Galilee, a lake known for storms that can form in minutes because of how the surrounding hills funnel wind onto the water. A furious squall hits. Waves are breaking over the sides fast enough that the boat is actually filling with water. These aren't tourists panicking on a pontoon. These are professional fishermen, men who've worked this exact lake their entire careers, and they are convinced, in that moment, that they are going to die. Maybe your storm isn't water. Maybe it's a waiting room, a certified letter you haven't opened, a calendar invite from HR you already know isn't good news. The disciples' fear was completely reasonable. Boats sank on that lake regularly, and drowning was a common way to die in their world. Your fear is reasonable too. This isn't a video telling you the storm is imaginary. The storm was real. The boat really was filling with water. What's being challenged isn't whether the storm is real. It's whether you're facing it alone. It's worth sitting with how ordinary this detail is. A group of experienced professionals, doing something they'd done 1,000 times before, suddenly facing a situation their experience couldn't handle. That's most real storms, honestly. It's rarely the first job, the first relationship, the first diagnosis. It's usually the one that hits after you thought you already knew how to handle this kind of thing. And where is Jesus during all of this? Verse 38 says he's asleep, on a cushion, in the back of a boat that is, at that exact moment, taking on water. Let that actually land for a second. The storm didn't wake him up. They had to wake him up. They shake him awake, and honestly, they say something close to an accusation. Don't you care that we're about to drown? He stands up, speaks 3 words to the wind and the waves, and the text says the wind died down completely and the sea went completely calm. Then he turns to the men who are still shaking and asks the actual question underneath the entire story. Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith? Notice what he doesn't say. He doesn't say, you should have known I'd fix it eventually. He's asking why his presence, 3 feet away from them, sleeping but there, wasn't already enough peace before the storm ever stopped. That's the whole point of this video, honestly. You've probably heard someone say the Bible tells us not to be afraid exactly 365 times. Once for every day of the year, like it was written on purpose that way. Scholars actually go back and forth on the exact count, so don't quote that number like it's carved in stone. But nobody disputes the pattern underneath it. Some version of "do not be afraid" is repeated more than almost anything else in the entire Bible. That's not decoration. It's repeated because God knows you're going to need to hear it again tomorrow, and the day after that, and the day the actual hard thing finally shows up. Here's tonight's practical move, and it's the simplest one in this whole video, on purpose. When the fear hits, tonight, at 2 a.m., mid-scroll, mid-spiral, staring at a ceiling running the same numbers for the 7th time, say 3 words out loud. Actually out loud if you can. Peace, be still. Not to the situation around you, to the storm happening inside your own chest. Say it once when the fear first shows up. Say it again if it comes back in an hour. It probably will. And that's not a failure of your faith. That's just what storms do before they actually pass. It's the exact command Jesus gave an actual sea, and it's still coming from the same voice. So here's where we started, and here's where I want to leave you. Almost half of you are more anxious about tomorrow than you were 1 year ago. 3 out of 4 of you have let the future quietly become the loudest voice in your head, louder some nights than the people actually in the room with you. That's not a character flaw. It's just what happens when a mind built to handle roughly 1 day at a time gets handed years of information all at once, every night, with no instructions on what to do with any of it. But you just heard 4 specific things Jesus said and did to people with far less security than you have tonight. Don't carry tomorrow's weight before it's actually due. That's Matthew 6, and it's the 24-hour rule. Bring what's already in your hand instead of staring at what's missing. That's 5 loaves feeding 20,000, and it's your loaves and fish list. Ask for the next step instead of the whole 10-year map. That's Peter on the water, and it's one decision, not a decade of them. And when the actual storm hits, the kind that fills the boat with real water, he's already in it with you. And he's not asking you to fix your face and pretend you're fine. He's asking why his presence wasn't already enough, and he's giving you the same 3 words he gave the sea. Pick one of those 4 things. Just one. Not all 4 tonight. 1. Do it before you close this app. If any part of this actually reached something real in you, hit subscribe right now, because this channel puts out a message exactly like this one every single day, and the next one might be the specific thing you need at 2 a.m. tomorrow, not tonight. Tell me in the comments which one of these 4 fears hit closest to home for you. The money one, the job one, the decision one, or the storm. I read every single comment, and some of you are going to need to hear from someone else in this comment section just as much as you needed to hear this video. Peace, be still. Not just for tonight, for tomorrow too.